Bruno Mars stepped out of a charity event and walked quietly through the empty streets. The night was bitterly cold. Despite his thick coat, an icy wind cut through him, making him shiver. The city lights reflected off the snow-covered sidewalks, but the streets were deserted. As he made his way toward his car, something caught his eye. A small figure huddled against the wall of a building. A young boy, barefoot in the freezing snow, trembling. He wore a tattered sweater, no coat to shield him from the cold. But the most striking detail, a battered broken guitar, rested in his lap. His small fingers, red from the cold, struggled to strum the strings. In front of him sat a small worn-out box, holding only a few scattered coins. Bruno stopped. The sight tore at his heart. Slowly, he approached the boy and knelt beside him. "Hey there, buddy. What's your name?" he asked, his voice warm and gentle. The boy lifted his head, his large brown eyes filled with sadness. His voice trembled as he answered, "Liam." Bruno nodded and forced a small smile. "You're really good at playing, Liam. But why are you sitting here in this freezing cold? Shouldn't you be home where it's safe?" Liam shook his head and stared at the ground, biting his lip before taking a deep breath. "I can't go home. I have to make money." Bruno felt the weight behind those words. "Why, Liam?" The boy slowly lifted his gaze and whispered, "My mom is sick. Cancer. My dad left us. She can't get out of bed. If I don't make money, we won't eat." Bruno's chest tightened. He suddenly understood why this child was sitting there, barefoot, with nothing but a guitar in the freezing night. But there was more to this story, and Bruno needed to know. Bruno's visit to Liam's home. Bruno leaned in closer and spoke softly. "Where's your home, Liam? Let me take you there." Liam hesitated. Most people pitied him, but no one ever truly helped. Yet something about Bruno's eyes felt different. With a small nod, he led the way. As they walked, the streets grew darker, buildings more run down. Finally, they reached a crumbling house. Liam pushed the door open. Inside, it was just as cold as outside. Broken windows let the winter air seep in. The walls were damp, and a rusted stove sat in the corner, lifeless. In the dimly lit corner, a frail woman lay under a thin blanket. His mother. She was painfully thin, her breath shallow. Empty pill bottles lay beside her. Liam knelt by her side, gently taking her hand. "Mom, we have a guest." Her tired eyes opened, offering the faintest smile. "Welcome," she whispered. Bruno had seen luxury beyond imagination, but in that freezing, broken room, he had never felt more powerless. "This can't go on," he thought. But how could he truly help? Bruno sat on the edge of the worn-out bed, listening as Liam's mother spoke. Her voice was weak, her breath shallow, and her skin pale. She had fought for as long as she could, but her body was giving up. She needed urgent medical care, but there was no money, no way to get treatment. And Liam had taken on the impossible burden of keeping them alive. Bruno turned to the boy, his voice soft yet firm. "Liam, do you go out every night to play?" The boy hesitated for a moment, then slowly nodded, averting his gaze. "I make more money at night. People leave the clubs and give me tips. But sometimes bad people come too." Bruno's face tensed. He hadn't noticed it before, but now he saw the bruises on Liam's small hands, the scrapes on his knees. "What do you mean by bad people?" Liam looked down, his voice barely a whisper. "They beat me up. They take my money." Bruno's fist clenched, his heart pounding in his chest. The thought of a child being attacked, robbed, left defenseless, it was unbearable. But Liam wasn't finished. "Sometimes they don't just take my money. Sometimes they break my guitar." Bruno's breath caught in his throat. "What? What do you mean they break your guitar?" Liam bit his lip, his small fingers gripping the hem of his worn-out sweater. "For fun, just to see me cry." He paused, then took a shaky breath before continuing. "The last time was 2 weeks ago. A group of drunk guys came up to me. They called me a beggar. They said I was dirty and should leave. Then One of them grabbed my guitar and smashed it against the wall. Bruno felt something crack inside him. Liam lifted his gaze slightly, his eyes dull, void of emotion. They laughed as they walked away. Bruno felt a lump rise in his throat. A child's only possession, his only hope, shattered to pieces just because someone found it amusing. But Liam wasn't done talking. That night, I didn't cry, he whispered, because if I cried, my mom would know, and I didn't want her to worry. Bruno swallowed hard, so I just sat there until morning. I hoped that maybe someone would still give me money, but without my guitar, no one stopped. When I got home, my mom asked me, "Did you make a lot today?" Liam gave a sad, small smile. I told her, "Yes, everything is fine." Bruno closed his eyes. He could barely breathe. This little boy, had seen the cruelest side of life, yet he still smiled for his mother's sake. This was something Bruno knew he would never forget. Liam took a deep breath and added one last thing. "But then someone gave me an old guitar. It was broken, and some of the strings were missing. But I played anyway, because no matter what happens, I have to keep playing. As long as my mom is sick, I can't stop." Bruno felt his heart shatter. This wasn't just about money. This wasn't just about survival. For Liam, music was his last lifeline. At that moment, Bruno made up his mind. He was going to help this child and his mother, and writing a check wouldn't be enough. This had to be something bigger, something that the world couldn't ignore. This wasn't just about Liam. This was about every child like him, every child left in the dark, playing music with frozen fingers, hoping someone, anyone, would listen. Bruno looked at Liam, his voice steady and determined. "Trust me, Liam, you're not alone anymore." The next morning, Bruno called his manager. "We're organizing a benefit concert, a big one. Every dollar raised would go to Liam, his mother, and homeless children like him." Preparations began immediately. Posters, social media campaigns, and within days, the concert became the most talked about event of the season. Tickets sold out in record time. Finally, the big night arrived. Bruno stepped onto the stage, the stadium erupting with cheers. But tonight wasn't about fame. It was about something far greater. Taking a deep breath, he gripped the microphone. The crowd fell silent. "Tonight, we're not just making music. Tonight, we're changing a life." Liam and his mother watched from a special balcony. The boy's eyes widened. He had never seen anything so grand. Then, Bruno dimmed the lights and began to sing. It was Liam's song, the one he played in the cold streets, the one he wrote for his mother. Liam covered his mouth, tears streaming down his face. Bruno wasn't just giving him shelter, he was giving him dignity. And in that moment, Liam felt something he had forgotten: hope. The concert raised enough money not just for Liam, but for many other children in need. The next morning, a car pulled up in front of a small, cozy home. Bruno walked beside Liam and his mother as they stepped inside. It wasn't just a house, it was a home, warm, safe, and filled with hope. Liam's mother was admitted to a top hospital, finally receiving the treatment she desperately needed. And Liam, he no longer had to play guitar on the streets to survive. One morning, Bruno arrived with a guitar case in hand. He knelt, opened it, and revealed a brand new guitar. With a smile, he handed it over. "Now you'll play in a warm home, not out in the cold." Liam touched the strings, eyes brimming with tears. For the first time in his life, he could dream. And for Bruno, this one concert meant more than any award he had ever won.